Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm reviewing the anime film One Piece Film Z. Now, one thing guys might not know about me is that I am a big One Piece fan. It is one of my favorite manga series. I've got a whole crap ton of the manga. I've got several little One Piece goodies sitting around here in my apartment. In fact, I put on one of the two One Piece shirts that I own, so you can see, just so that I could do this review properly. And show you something kind of cool. Yep, a model of the Going Merry, or Merry Go as it's called in English. And the real pride and joy of my collection of One Piece goodies is this right here, a reproduction for real of the Straw Hats flag. I picked that up when I was on vacation in Australia last year. It was a really great souvenir. Anyway, the long and the short is I really like One Piece. And this is actually the first time I've sat down and watched one of the One Piece films. I'm really more of a follower of the manga than I am the anime. And overall, I have to say that it's a pretty good movie. It's certainly very entertaining. It gives you a lot of just the stuff you've come to expect and enjoy from One Piece. That said, however, it does have some flaws in it. And let's get into it. The main thing with this movie is that they do take a very interesting storytelling risk, and the movie is really about the film's villain, or antagonist, I suppose is a much more adept term, and that's Zed. Now, the movie kind of I said film Z. Z and Zed are both perfectly valid ways of pronouncing the last letter of the alphabet. It's just that in the US we tend to say Z, and in the Commonwealth countries they tend to say Zed. I'm just going to call the character Zed since that's how he pronounces his name, and it's just simpler that way. Although it does make me think a lot about Bobcat Goldthwait's character in the Police Academy movies. But let's face it, there's only so many of those that are actually good enough to even bother thinking about, so... Anyway, as I said, the movie really is more about Zed than it is anybody else. And this makes sense. They don't really want to they can't really reveal some shocking piece of information about somebody's from the Straw Hats past in these movies. So it really kind of makes sense for them to focus in on the original characters, because with them they can kind of do what they want. And Zed, according to the folks that made the film, is the strongest character that the Straw Hats have run into during their entire voyage, especially since coming to the Grand Line. And considering some of the people they've gone up against in the Grand Line, like Blackbeard and Magellan, that's really saying something. Now, overall, I'll have to say, they did do a really nice job with the character of Zed. The idea that he's this legendary Navy man, a vice admiral at one point, who has trained so many of the people that the pirates, the Straw Hats and various other pirates, have had to deal with over the years, or was at least a colleague to some of the older ones. I mean, the sheer amount of cameo appearances by various people from the Navy that we've seen in the manga, many of them who don't even have names, I mean, it's really, really impressive. They definitely went all out in making sure that we were sold on the idea that this guy was, somebody that the Navy respected. And we see that from the comments that Bossellino and Aokiji make when they're talking about him. I mean, I thought the way that Bossellino was talking to Zed at the very beginning, as they were kind of getting into their fight, you could sense that he genuinely had a lot of respect for this guy, but that he wasn't going to let that stop him from taking him down. And of course, that's very in keeping with the sort of guy that Bossellino is. There's something about that guy that really just intrigues me. I really would like to know more about him, but anyway. Sorry, I'm a little unfocused there for a second. Anyway, as we go along, we learn more about Zed's past. As I said, he has trained a lot of these people, was a mentor figure, somebody that a lot of people like like Smoker looked to for inspiration. And then they say in his backstory that a pirate who became one of the 7 warlords of the sea killed his wife and son, and ultimately the Navy made this person one of the 7 warlords. Now, here's one of my big criticisms of the movie, is that it's never explained who this was. And frankly, it really seems like that's something they should have gone into. Now, again, it's like I said, they can't really go adding too much in terms of important details to already existing characters' backgrounds, which I think that is really the only reasonable explanation as to why they danced around that. But again, it just seems very unsatisfying. Now, if my knowledge of the timeline of the One Piece universe is right, then it seems to me like the only reasonable suspects are probably like someone like Doflamingo, or maybe, yeah, Blackbeard I'm pretty sure was briefly a warlord of the sea. Or it might have been somebody who, like, well, I suppose Mihawk is a possibility, but he's not the kind of person who would go around and murder somebody's wife and kid. Or it might have been somebody that, whoever it was, that Doflamingo or maybe Gecko Moira took over for at some point. So there are a lot of possibilities out there. You know, my personal sense of the whole thing is that, like, that really read like something that Doflamingo would do. But again, I understand why they might not have said that, why not have explained it, but it just really feels like that's something that they should have done. On the other hand, by keeping it vague, and it's just able to say that Zed is just willing to go out there and just kill all pirates indiscriminately, well, that certainly makes his master plan of basically using volcanoes to barbecue everybody in the like a huge section of the Grand Line. That makes it a little bit more believable, but I don't know. I find it a little hard to believe that. Yeah, it just really didn't. I think I could understand why he would have this hatred for all pirates, but that he would be so completely and utterly willing to disregard the lives of innocent people, that I don't think they quite went and sold. Again, I could totally believe that this guy would go out and be perfectly happy to kill any pirate he came across. And just like the Straw Hats, he was perfectly willing to kill them even after they'd saved his life and had shown themselves to be friendly. But again, his whole plan was to kill basically a huge chunk of the people in that part of the world, regardless of whether or not they were even pirates. And we even see him essentially destroy an entire island full of innocent people, most of whom apparently were able to escape, of course, but still. That really shows you just how far this poor guy has fallen from being a genuinely heroic and noble man to being someone who is willing to commit genocide. And this also kind of leads me into another kind of problem that I have with this story, is that Zed has all of these followers. They call themselves the New Navy, and they're very gung-ho about going out there and just putting pirates to the sword. And they're very good at what they do. Zed himself is able to give the Straw Hats a hell of a fight, and the New Navy ships are basically come this close to sinking the Thousand Sunny. I mean, if it hadn't been for Frankie installing that coupe de bout thing, I think that's how you say it, in the ship, that really would have been game over for the Straw Hats. And I have to say, the movie does really a good job of presenting Zed as a really serious and genuine threat. Like, this is not something that they can ignore. And the whole part where Ayn, his lieutenant, uses her powers to de-age Nami and Chopper, and technically Brooke. I'm sorry, Nami, Chopper, Brooke, and Robin. Although, honestly, the only ones who were in any sort of serious problem situation were Chopper and Robin. That, of course, just exacerbates why the Straw Hats need to go and deal with this guy. But continuing along with talking about that subordinate, there was Ayn and the ninja guy whose name I can't be bothered to remember. Well, okay, I understand why they would be loyal to this guy. They were the only 2 survivors out of this crew, the guy's crew, before the Navy kind of pulled the rug out from under him. And so I can understand why they would be willing to go along with him, be willing to turn against the Navy for what they did. I really don't understand why they would be willing to go along with this whole, let's do this plan that's going to result in the deaths of untold innocent people. And I think this is one of those things that, One Piece being a product of Japan and the way Japanese people view loyalty, kind of conflicting with my values as a Western person and my view on loyalty. And, well, it is what it is. Another problem that I really had with the story is the whole thing with I'm de-aging some of the folks, like Chopper and Nami particularly, as I said. Okay, I did like that situation where afterwards that happens, Usopp says to Robin, like, I don't get why you're upset at having been aged back to 18. That just means that you don't have to worry about any part of your body sagging. And, of course, Robin rightfully clocks him one for that. Although, Usopp does raise a pretty good point. It's like, you've been turned back to when you were, like, 18 years old. You are in your absolute physical prime. Why are you upset? Nami and Chopper, having been turned back into children, they've got a pretty genuine reason to be mad. But Robin, not so much. But anyway, the whole thing is that this doesn't reverse until Zoro defeats Ein. I'm sorry, Zoro. Like I said, there's legal reasons. Okay, Zoro. I'm gonna make it a point to call him that. Okay, so how does this work? I mean, she has to be defeated by one of the good guys before that power goes away and everybody reverts back to normal. I mean, if she just got knocked unconscious by somebody else, would the same thing have happened? I mean, how does this power maintain itself if she like goes to sleep or something? I mean, just how that all works is not explained at all. All it takes is Ein losing to one of the Straw Hats, and then, bam, the power is undone. And there's no logical or reasonable explanation for it. Now, logical and reasonable and, devil fruit powers are not exactly the most compatible thing in the universe, but give Eiichiro Oda credit. He's put a lot of work over the years into making sure that stuff in general in the One Piece universe hangs together pretty well. That you understand why things happen the way they do. And this just really, really does go against the spirit of that. One other thing that I wasn't too thrilled about in the movie, and this is kind of a minor thing, is that at the start of it, I think way too much time is just spent on the Straw Hats just sort of dicking around, being goofy. And while that's all well and good, it serves as a very stark contrast to the seriousness that the movie spends most of its time involved in. But still, I just think that all went on too long. And then there's, of course, the ridiculousness of, like, the old shipyard guys, like, oh yeah, I got all this junk that I've been hanging on to for years. I happen to like you guys. Here, you can have all this stuff. And this guy's literally got, like, a freaking arsenal. And the thing is, though, most of that stuff doesn't even really play a useful role in the big final battle. It's just an excuse for the Straw Hats to put on different costumes, which can be turned into toys and sold, and for Robin to run around dressed like a stripper. I mean, seriously, she is literally going to this battle basically wearing like kind of a coat that's hanging open and a bra and like a bikini or a bra and panties or something. It's just like, I mean, look, when she was running around in her purple cowgirl outfit, that was fan servicey, but it was somewhat believable that she might wear that, especially since she was hanging out in a desert country. This is just pure. And this is one of the things that particularly bothers me. One, just because it's just such naked fan service. It also sort of bugs me because Robin is my favorite One Piece character. I love her. She's awesome. Now, anyway, getting back to the movie's some of the movie's strong points. One, I mentioned the fight with Bassolino and Zed at the beginning of the movie, and I have to say that was done really well. It was really exciting, and it served to remind us that Bassolino is not somebody to be taken lightly. He is a powerful, powerful guy. And of course, blowing up that island, very nice way of showing us that Zed is someone that we should be taking seriously. And of course, like, the animation in this movie, it has to be said, is really, really great. This is some very top-notch stuff. There's also, actually no, we'll talk about the music later on. Also, Aokiji, he has some really nice moments where you get to see his feelings about Zed, and he's the guy who really serves to give us the perspective of the Navy on this guy, and how hard it is for so many of them to see someone who was their mentor or hero or someone that they look to for inspiration fall so far. And of course, just his general interactions with the Straw Hats in the bathhouse really serves to remind us that now that he's kind of on the outs, he's much more of a wild card. That even the Straw Hats really aren't sure what to make of this guy. He, in general, seems to be on the side of the angels, as it were, but he's doing things for his own reasons, and that's very intriguing stuff. And let me see. Again, the fight with Luffy at the end between him and Zed, also really well done. I like how Luffy said, like, after he beats Zed, Zed says, like, okay, you win, go ahead, kill me. And Luffy's like, I don't want to kill you, I just want my hat back. Again, this is a really great reminder of just how Luffy thinks, how much value he places on that promise of being able to meet up with Shanks again someday. Of course, this is also made interesting by the fact that even in the manga, Luffy has said that he plans to kick the asses of all 4 of the 4 emperors. So, yeah, actually kicking Shanks' butt is on the list of things Luffy wants to do in his life. But if he wants to be king of the pirates, well, it makes sense that he would want to do that. And honestly, the kind of guy he is, Shanks would probably like, okay, Luffy, let's see if you've got what it takes to beat me. This'll be cool. But anyway, and of course, at the end of it all, Zed kind of, as TV Tropes puts it, goes out with his big Bolivian army, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid ending of just fighting wave after wave after wave of powerful Navy people until he's just eventually overwhelmed. And we even get to see his little subordinates crying at his grave and Aokiji. And I will say that scene between Zed and Aokiji, where they talk a little bit, that was also nicely well done. And I like how Aokiji chose to walk away. Zed said, like, dude, I don't want to fight you, but if you make me, I will. And I think that was a really sign that Aokiji realized that Zed had to walk his own path in life, had to make his own choices. And of course, ultimately at the end, Zed chose to help the Straw Hats survive, and the good guys were able to save the day and all that other stuff. And I really, while I was watching this movie, I was kind of at one point thrown out of it when we suddenly started getting these little flashes of Zed's life as a kid. At first I thought, like, well, this just doesn't really work. I don't know why they're throwing it in here. And then we get that little shot at the end where we see Zed as a kid in a little superhero mask, referring to himself as, his real name is Zephyr, referring to himself using the name of a hero as Zed, the name Zed as the name for his fictional superhero identity. And when you look at that and what he did, it is really a very stirring comment on his psychology. Everything that he was doing, he really thought he was doing for noble reasons. And of course that was misguided, but still at the end he managed to regain some of that nobility, that genuinely good purpose. And that, of course, it was Luffy that showed him the way, which of course is really one of the reoccurring themes that we see all the time in One Piece. Anyway, I promised to talk about the music. Now, some folks have really not been too happy about, well, okay, the music of the movie in general is quite good. I enjoyed quite a bit of it. It's really the stuff at the credits. The Avril Lavigne's cover of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' Bad Reputation, and I forget who sings that other song, like Stained or somebody, I think it is. Whatever. Okay, look, I don't really have a huge opinion about Avril Lavigne one way or the other. She's, as far as I'm concerned, is a pop singer, and she's good at what she does. She goes out there and she cranks out, you know, pop songs that the target demographic for that stuff like, and other people are either going to hate or probably take a sort of take it or leave it attitude towards. Now, I personally thought they were okay covers. Not the greatest I've ever heard, but I love me some Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. I friggin' love that band. They're like some of my favorite music from the 80s. I mean, seriously, you do not know the number of times I have sat around and listened to like their cover of Crimson and Clover, or I Love Rock and Roll, or yeah, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts are freaking awesome. And I won't lie, I really wish they just used their version of Bad Reputation. But here's the thing, that came out sometime around like 1983. And music from like 1983 just is not what the target audience of this movie wants. I mean, most of the people this movie is really made for weren't even born in 1983. In fact, a lot of them probably weren't even born in 1993. So, as an older fan of the series, I just have to accept that. And that's just one of the things that really, as you get older, you just sort of have to accept that the stuff that you liked when you were younger may not fly quite as high with younger people, and that's just life. But as far as I'm concerned, the song is still there, and it's certain, and Bad Reputation definitely is a song that, in terms of its lyrics, fit the Straw Hats really, really well. So I can't really blame the people who made the movie for taking a good song and just simply having it reinterpreted by a reasonably competent singer for who will appeal to the modern audience. I mean, at the end of the day, entertainment is a business, and the music industry is especially a business. A rather shady one, but c'est la vie, right? Anyway, bottom line, One Piece Film Z. Pretty entertaining bit of One Piece fun. You like One Piece, you'll probably get your time's worth out of watching this film. And with that said, folks, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.